everyone. Welcome to our, part one of our Soviet summers. As I mentioned in my email newsletter, we're going to have an installment of Soviet summers, and our paid subscribers sometime tomorrow or later in the afternoon tomorrow will be getting subscribers only bonus content of like pictures, audio, video, translations, just like really cool stuff. So become a paid subscriber. So the reason why we started this was all because of John Y. Spinoza. And we were kind of debunking some Chapo's basically really bad rant about the USSR. And then we realized he sounded like a foaming at the mouth Nazi. And then it took me a few minutes and then I realized, because the US government during Operation Paperclip and what other things like used literal Nazis to do their anti-communism propaganda and Radio Free, whatever, everyone in America sounds like a foaming in the mouth Nazi when talking about the USSR. And that hit me. So in our podcast, we always talk about decolonizing our history. Well, what is better than literally decolonizing from Nazi propaganda? So you don't sound like a foaming at the mouth Nazi. And you can also be sure that you didn't get your information from Joseph Goebbels himself. You'd be surprised. So we have Matt F. from Massachusetts, now Praxis on Twitter with us. And what we're going to do is Stalin and some people under him wrote this book called The History of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, Bolsheviks. And so we're kind of this will be our reading companion. So that it'll keep us from it'll keep us organized at least and not like crazy. I don't know, like whatever I was doing with Azerbaijan. It will keep me from going off on too many tangents. And it's also a good way to give you like the brief description.
This is also easily, like without any question, the number one reading manual for the study of Marxism-Leninism as a whole.
Yeah. And Stalin is an unbelievably good writer. Like, unfortunately, actually, what you should do is half the time, if you just call him JV, I can't pronounce it, Jugashvili, and then... Yeah. Let's call him Georgian priest. Oh, no, Georgian saint.
Georgian philosopher.
No, you can call him Georgian saint. If it's liberal, call him Georgian philosopher. If he's conservative, call him Georgian saint. He has been sainted. What do you call it when somebody becomes a saint?
Canonized.
Yeah, he has been canonized in the Georgian Orthodox Church. Georgia as in the country of Georgia, whose capital is Tbilisi, and not the state of Georgia. So yeah, if it's a conservative, totally put Georgian saint.
I did not know that Stalin was canonized.
Yes, there is a church that recognizes Stalin as a saint in Georgia.
Awesome. What's the miracle he performed?
He defeated Hitler, cured illiteracy, industrialized the Soviet Union, that's the most and China.
Okay, that's the most Georgian thing I've ever heard, is the idea that his miracle was teaching Russians how to read.
Oh, I did not realize it was a low-key insult. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so that's the best way your guys are going to confuse people into reading Stalin if they're like foaming in the mouth, Stalin bad kind of people. Okay, so John Y. Spinoza said, I remember the late Christopher Hitchens complaining about the icons of Stalin. That's because he's jealous. there won't be any icons of Christopher Hitchens. Yeah. So let's start with a brief video because the most important date is, okay, by the way, until 1917, until 1918, Russia uses the not Gregorian calendar. Maybe it's the Julian calendar. Yes. And so our dates may be up to like 20 days off from what you read on Wikipedia. But then after 1918, we'll get our dates right. And thank you so much, whoever sent a super chat or just right now. That was very kind of you. Thank you so much, Lumpia Logic, fan number 1. Yep, we love you too. Okay, so with that, let's play this short video, and then you'll kind of understand what happened in 1861.
Okay, so 1861, after facing difficult peasant revolts throughout the kingdom,
Tsar Alexander abolished serfdom. Well, kinda. So, what do I mean by kinda? Well, just listen to Joe Biden and you'll understand what I mean for a second.
We're going to make it clear that anyone collecting unemployment who is offered a suitable job must take the job or lose their unemployment benefits. There are a few COVID-19 related exceptions, so that people aren't forced to choose between their basic safety and a paycheck. But otherwise, that's the law. I know there's been a lot of discussion since Friday's report, that people are being paid to stay home rather than go to work. Well, we don't see much evidence of that. That is a major factor. We don't see that. Look, it's easy to say, the line has been, because of the generous unemployment benefits, that it's a major factor in labor shortages. Americans want to work. Americans want to work. As my dad used to say, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity, your place in the community, being able to look your kid in the eye and say everything's going to be okay. I think the people who claim Americans won't work, even if they find a good and fair opportunity, underestimate the American people. So we'll insist that the law is followed with respect to benefits, but we're not going to turn our backs on our fellow Americans. 22 million people lost their jobs in this pandemic through no fault of their own. They lost their jobs to a virus and to a government that bungled its response to the crisis and failed to protect them. We still have 8 million fewer jobs than we did when the pandemic started. And for many of those folks, unemployment benefits are a lifeline. No one should be allowed to game the system. And we'll insist the law is followed, but let's not take our eye off the ball. Families who are just trying to put food on the table, keep a roof over their head, they aren't the problem. We need to stay focused on the real problems in front of us, beating this pandemic and creating jobs. Again, the law is clear. If you're receiving unemployment benefits and you're offered a suitable job, you can't refuse that job and just keep getting the unemployment benefits.
Okay, did you guys hear the last part about it? That was very similar to Tsar Alexander's abolishment of serfdom. So the idea was that they still had to, when you're a serf, you have to provide corvée labor, as in free labor, not as in slave labor, basically coerced by the state labor to your landlord, and so the idea was that, well, they literally, when you're a serf, you don't even own the clothes on your back. So down when you don't own the clothes on your back, Tsar Alexander's like, okay, you guys all will have a chance
to work hard and in order to have affordable access to not being a slave, is basically what he said. And so they had to work for about 9 years, like nothing changed for 9 years, as in they literally had to continue to be a slave for 9 years.
After 9 years, they could do these things called redemption payments to their landlord after they had been a slave for God knows how long. And then they would, in theory, kind of buy their own freedom. In theory, very much in theory. Do you have anything else to add, Matt?
No, that's bleak. That's a lot. just all the liberalism from Biden, and then injecting it with the Tsarist nonsense. Oh man.
Yeah.
No, that pretty much covers it.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, we're in. Imagine yourself as a. Oh, by the way, I forgot. Okay, I'm gonna have to figure out how to say this. Hold on. I'm gonna have to figure out how to say this. But God damn it. Okay, I'll figure this out. It's the Russian word. Okay, so okay. Oh, actually, okay. Rogatka. Okay. It's called rogatka. No, ragatka. Maybe. Okay. So often, like, if the slave tried to run away or something, they would like put this like collar that had these spikes sticking out of them, and they were like beaten, executed, just like all sorts of horrible things were happening to them if they decided to say no. So, yeah. And then after Matt finishes, at the end of the day, we might learn about the demented lady. I forgot her name. Hold on. Let me find out what was the demented lady's name. Her name is Saltikova. Okay. At the end, we'll learn about Saltikova or her, whatever. Anyways, go for it, Matt.
Okay. Tsarist Russia entered the path of capitalist development later than other countries. Prior to the 60s.
Hold on. So capitalist development is automation.
Oh, the subheading.
Yeah, and it's not when people buy stuff.
Right. Okay. So, chapter 1 of the history of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, Bolsheviks short course, the struggle for the creation of a social democratic labor party in Russia, 1883 to 1901. Subheading 1: Abolition of serfdom and the development of industrial capitalism in Russia, rise of the modern industrial proletariat, first steps of the working class movement. There we go. Tsarist Russia entered the path of capitalist development later than other countries. Prior to the 60s of the past century, that's 1860s, there were very few mills and factories in Russia. Manorial estates based on serfdom constituted the prevailing form of economy. There could be no real development of industry under serfdom. The involuntary labor of the serfs in agriculture was of low productivity. The whole course of economic development made the abolition of serfdom imperative. In 1861, the Tsarist government, weakened by defeat in the Crimean War and frightened by the peasant revolts against the landlords, was compelled to abolish serfdom. But even after serfdom had been abolished, the landlords continued to oppress the peasants. In the process of emancipation, quote unquote, they robbed the peasants by enclosing, cutting off considerable. Yes, they robbed the peasants by enclosing, cutting off considerable portions of land previously used by the peasants. These cut off portions of land were called by the peasants Otreski, meaning cut.
Yep. Okay, go ahead.
Otreski, okay. The peasants were compelled to pay about 2 billion rubles.
That's like $1 billion in 1861 for their freedom.
Wow.
So
wow.
wait a minute. So wait. Well, how much is $1 billion in 1861? That's just
the inflation calculator doesn't go back that far. I can't do that math.
Okay, I know from 1914 the dollar to ruble is 2 to 1. Oh my God! So literally, it was impossible to be emancipated under the Tsarist system. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Mathematically.
Yeah. 2 billion rubles to the landlords as redemption.
Unless they forgot. Unless they
that's not individual per peasant. It's not like the total class.
Hold on. Let me figure this out. Okay, I'm gonna have to figure this out. Continue to read, and I will be figuring this out by comparing the Russian version.
Okay. Wow. So the peasants were compelled to pay about 2 billion rubles to the landlord.
Hold on. Let's check. Okay. Go ahead. Continue.
So do you want me to continue reading, or do you want to
continue to read while I check in Russian? So just don't worry about it.
Okay, so the peasants compelled to pay 2 billion rubles to the landlords as redemption for the price of their quote-unquote emancipation. I like that they keep emancipation in quotes in this book. After serfdom had been abolished, the peasants were obliged to rent land from the landlords on most onerous terms. In addition to paying money rent, the peasants were often compelled by the landlord to cultivate without remuneration a definite portion of his land with their own implements and horses. This was called otrobotki or barshina, parenthetically labor rent corvée. Okay.
Hold on. Okay. So hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Maybe I'm in the wrong. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. In most cases, the peasants were obliged to pay the landlords rent in kind in the amount of 1/2 of their harvest. This was known as ispolti?
Ispalu. It literally means half.
Ispalu. Okay.
Okay. So here it says 4. Okay, hold on. This is weird. Okay, go on. Okay, actually, it is that much. Okay.
Okay, so what's the
That is.
What's the situation?
It is really literally that much.
Okay. Okay, how much is it?
It is.
Because we were trying to figure out for inflation.
Okay, so I know I can't figure out through inflation. I'll just give you the thing, but so it kept on raising up it kept on raising up. What do you call it? Exponentially. So by 1880, they had to pay 125 million, and then by 1900, they had to pay about 2 billion.
Oh, wow. Okay, so, and was this collectively for the class, or was this per peasant?
I can't tell.
Okay.
I can't be stoned trying to
I'm
read
just going to
foreign language that I don't know, and also trying.
I'm just going to assume I'm just going to assume it's collective for the class.
Yes, and if it's not, we will tell you next week. How about that?
Okay.
Because I can't do all the math, stoned, trying to read a phone, not possible.
Thus, the situation remained almost the same as it had been under serfdom. The only difference being that the peasant was now personally free, could not be bought and sold like chattel.
This was also not entirely true, but yeah, legally they could not be bought and sold by chattel if the laws were properly enforced.
Yeah, exactly. And who's enforcing the law? The landlord's cousin.
Exactly.
The landlords bled the backwards peasant farms white by various methods of extortion, rents, fines, etc. Owing to the oppression of the landlords, the bulk of the peasantry were unable to improve their farms, hence the extreme backwardness of agriculture in pre-revolutionary Russia, which led to frequent crop failures and famine. The survival of serfdom, crushing taxation, and the redemption payments to the landlords, which not infrequently exceeded the income of the peasant household, ruined the peasants, reduced them to pauperism, and forced them to to quit their villages in search of a livelihood.
Hold on. Even if they left the village, they still had to pay taxes to the village landlord. Like their family was still responsible for paying taxes to the village landlord on their behalf. So even if they were like had to like forced out of the village and they had to go to like a city to work in a factory, like a lot of their income was still being sent back home to be paid to the jackass.
Depressing. They went to work in the mills and factories. This was a source of cheap labor power for the manufacturers. Over the workers and peasants stood a veritable army of sheriffs, deputy sheriffs, gendarmes, constables, rural police who protected the Tsar, the capitalists, and the landlords from the toiling and exploited people.
Yep.
Corporal punishment.
Hold on. I have some statistics. Okay, so the Tsar had this thing called the which our FBI is based off, and also the Hoover Institute has these files called the Okhrana. There were 4 million people like in the Okhrana. Next week I'll bring some really cool mugshots. You'll see Lenin's mugshots, Stalin's mugshots, and a lot of other people's mugshots. But they had these like like they literally tailed every revolutionary like day and night. And yeah, it was psychotic. But unfortunately, I have no idea how, but these records magically ended up in the Hoover Institute in California, and our FBI was started shortly after the overthrow of the Tsar. Not that that's connected or anything like that. Okay, but yes, they had a lot of, like, it is hard to make people work against their will. It is like super, you need to have like a lot of force and a lot of hostages.
Yep. Corporal punishment existed right up until 1903. Although serfdom had been abolished, the peasants were flogged for the slightest offense and for the non-payment of taxes.
The taxes go to the landlord. Remember, the taxes doesn't go to the government. It literally goes to that jackass.
Workers were manhandled by the police and the Cossacks, especially during strikes, when the workers downed tools because their lives had been made intolerable by the manufacturers.
Yeah, so when the workers were striking, the way they would like strike is they just like would take their tools and just ruin it, so that it'll take some time for the whoever will own the factory to like bring new tools, and then they got like a little bit of a break.
Yep. Under the Tsars, the workers and peasants had no political rights whatever. The Tsarist autocracy was the worst enemy of the people. Tsarist Russia was a prison of nations. The numerous non-Russian nationalities were entirely devoid of rights and were subjected to constant insult and humiliation of every kind. The Tsarist government taught the Russian population to look down upon native peoples of the national regions as inferior race, officially referred to them as Inostrani.
Okay. Except I used a different word because I did not.
Inorotsi.
Okay, sorry.
We'll go with that. Inorotsi.
I don't think that's a word, but I think it's Inostrani, but we'll figure it out.
This was written like 80 years ago. So,
okay.
So it means aliens. So they referred to them as aliens and fostered contempt and hatred of them. The Tsarist government deliberately fanned national discord, instigated one nation against another, engineered Jewish pogroms, and in Transcaucasia, incited Tatars and Armenians to massacre each other.
Tatars are Muslims and Armenians are Christians.
Okay. So there's that tale as old as time. Nearly, if not all, government posts in the national regions were held by Russian officials. All business and government institutions and in the courts was conducted in the Russian language. It was forbidden to publish newspapers and books in the languages of the non-Russian nationalities or to teach in the schools in the native tongue. The Tsarist government strove to extinguish every spark of national culture and pursued a policy of forcible Russification. Tsardom was a hangman and the torturer of the non-Russian people.
Okay, by the way, just to remember, Tsarist Russia was much bigger than the Soviet Union. So it had Finland, Poland, like everything west of east or west.
East of the Urals is like where Siberia is. West of the Urals is where everything else is.
Okay, so remember Poland? It was the rest of the Tsarist Russia east of Poland or west of Poland?
I would imagine it would be both, actually.
Okay, so yeah, it was all around. It was much bigger. So they had like a lot of it got balkanized during the world wars and the entire world waging a war on the Bolsheviks in 1918. So like Poland was a balkanized country. Finland was one. Haha. Okay. Okay. So so yeah, you'll see. And Romania was kind of created from balkanized Austria-Hungary. Although they're not going to like this. Oh my God, I'm going to get so many people upset. Oh yeah. Yes. Anyways.
Okay. After the abolition of serfdom, the development of industrial capitalism in Russia proceeded at a fairly rapid pace in spite of the fact that it was still hampered by survival of serfdom. During the 25 years, 1865 to 1890, the number of workers employed in large mills and factories and the railways increased from 706,000 to 1,433,000, or more than doubled.
Okay, by the way, I have a really funny story. So Tsar Nikolai, okay. So in 1860, hold on, let's just go through the czars because so the grandfather of Tsar Nikolai is Tsar Alexander, and we just saw he's Tsar Alexander II. And then he gets assassinated in March 13th of 1881 by a Narodnik. You'll learn who the Narodniks are, and I believe
they come up later.
Yeah, you'll learn. Lenin doesn't like him for obvious reasons. And Lenin's brother, is it Dmitri or Alexander who gets hanged?
I thought it was Dmitri.
Lenin had two brothers. Okay, let's check just to make sure because I don't want to give wrong information. So Lenin had brothers. Okay, so it was Alexander that was hung. In 1887. No, wait, that doesn't make sense. Okay, so Alexander was hung unless they took hanged, whatever. Yes, he was definitely hanged for attempting to assassinate Tsar. No. It was he tried to assassinate the next Tsar. That was the problem. Okay, Alexander was not Tsar Alexander II was like a bomb, like they threw a bomb at him, and he he just went whoosh. And then what? It's true.
That's what happens when bombs are thrown at you. Yeah.
And you're a czar, and you should not have been a czar, and you deserved it. Like I've never met any czar who does not deserve what he gets. Right?
that should be on a shirt. Every czar I ever met had it coming.
Absolutely. They all deserve it. Whatever happens to them, it's karma. They deserve it. Anyways, his father, his son, Alexander III, became the czar. And anyways, Alexander III was not really planning on having Nikolai be the czar. So 2 years before Nikolai was the czar, this guy, one of the senior ministers to tell Alexander III, hey, yo, why don't you have Tsar Nikolai, who was 34 at that time, manage the railway? And his own dad was like, no. He's too incompetent for that. No. But then 2 years later, Alexander the Third dies of a heart attack, I believe. And so then Nikolai becomes, oh no, he dies of a kidney illness caused by inbreeding, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, what else was going to catch you there?
Okay. And so then he died, and Tsar Nikolai became the Tsar. And 2 years earlier, in 1892, like he said that Nikolai is like his own dad thinks like Nikolai is like such a fail son. He's really stupid and incompetent. Oh yeah,
which is saying something. It's like, you know, like, what's the Russian equivalent of sitting on a porch plucking a banjo with like your big deliverance head? Like, like, you know, that's the Tsar, and he's like shitting on his son, who's even dumber than he is.
Yes, he is. We're going to read some parts of the Tsar Nikolai's diary, and it's hilarious how clueless he is. So, like, my favorite part is that the babysitter was a Bolshevik since like 1905. And Lenin is getting all sorts of these leaks from the palace. Like, and he does, I don't know why. He first blames the Jews, but not his like and anyway, so it's like the babysitter, like imagine how horrible the Tsar must be if you're like tasked with like babysitting these like little monster kids, and then your first thing is like, oh, Bolsheviks killing Tsar, God, let me join in 1905.
Wow, so like one of the not just any Bolshevik, but like an old Bolshevik.
Yeah, so he really hated the Tsar. Anyways, so it's kind of weird because once in a while Lenin had all these leaks and the stuff, and the Tsar would make the Tsar panic. Okay, so somebody says it drives me crazy that when Eastern or post icons and prayers of the Holy Passion. Yes, I understand. That's why I don't know what to. In Russia, they don't actually. Okay. Anyways, so that's the Tsar situation. So Narodniks were people who I guess were trying to assassinate Tsar Alexander III, who is Tsar Alexander II's son.
Right.
But I'm sure there are other relations, like probably uncle and cousin too, but I don't want to get into the family.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, they're all like one person.
Yeah. Well, actually, if you look at the King of England and Tsar Nikolai together, they're like first cousins, but they look like twins, and it's kind of creepy. And then he marries the King of England's sister. Ew.
Oh man!
And
like no wonder the blood was just falling out of their skin.
That's really gross. Yeah, I have a really gross picture of them. Ew. Incest is gross. Okay. Anyways.
Okay. So, large-scale capitalist industry in Russia began to develop even more rapidly in the 90s. By the end of that decade, the number of workers employed in the large mills and factories in the mining industry and on the railways amounted in the 50 European provinces of Russia alone to 2,207,000, and in the whole of Russia to 2,792,000 persons. This was the modern industrial proletariat, radically different from the workers employed in the factories of the period of serfdom and from the workers in small handicraft and other kinds of industry, both because of the spirit of solidarity prevailing among the workers in big capitalist enterprises and because of their militant revolutionary qualities. The industrial...
Hold on. I forgot to, I tweeted this out this morning, but it just didn't occur to me because what you'll notice is this is around the time when they made the tires and the Congo genocide or whatever, like amped up on steroids, and same with Malaysia, whatnot. It's because it's the automobile boom. And then, like around 1891, I have no idea why, and it's totally not suspicious, but for some odd reason, in the Library of Congress, there's a map of where all the precious metals in Russia could be found. Like, totally not suspicious. Are you suspicious at all about this? Like, I'm sure it was very innocent. That, yeah.
It was the Russo hyphen like something British company, but the Herbert Hoover was sort of destined to become the richest man in the world until the Bolsheviks took over.
Yeah, and then that's why you can see. Oh no, that was Calvin Cool. Oh, okay. Wait, who's vice president?
I think Coolidge was Hoover's vice president.
Okay. I forgot. Okay,
and he got stomped in a landslide by FDR.
I know. Calvin Coolidge was later found. Like, I tweeted this picture out of him hanging out with Hitler.
Welcome to Raid Shadow Legends.
They're all the same.
Okay, but anyways, yes, so there were really lots of people in America who were very powerful, had lots of money to be gained from not having the Bolsheviks.
Yes.
And that should explain why half the news. Okay. Anyways, we'll talk about the news next week. Okay, go on.
The industrial boom of the 90s was chiefly due to the intensive railroad construction during the course of the decade of 1890 to 1900. Over 21,000 versts of new railway were laid. The railways created a big demand for metal, for rails, locomotives, and cars, and also for increasing quantities of fuel, coal, and oil. This led to the development of the metal and fuel industries. In pre-revolutionary Russia, as in all capitalist countries, periods of industrial boom alternated with industrial crises. Stagnation, which severely affected the working class and condemned hundreds of thousands of workers to unemployment and poverty.
Oh, that sounds very familiar. Like, yep. Stagnation, boom, workers get a little bit of a raise, and then like mass unemployment. What does it sound like?
Yeah. Although the development of capitalism in Russia proceeded fairly rapidly after the abolition of serfdom, nevertheless, economic development in Russia lagged considerably behind other capitalist countries. The vast majority of the population was still engaged in agriculture. In his celebrated work, The Development of Capitalism in Russia, Lenin cited significant figures from the general census of the population of 1897, which showed that about 5/6 of the total population were engaged in agriculture, and only 1/6 in large and small industry, trade, and on the railways and waterways. In building work, lumbering, and so on. This shows that although capitalism was developing in Russia, she was still in an agrarian, economically backwards country. A petty bourgeois country, that is, a country in which low productive individual peasant farming based on small ownership still predominated. Capitalism was developing not only in the towns, but also in the countryside. The peasantry, the most numerous class in pre-revolutionary Russia, was undergoing a process of disintegration, of cleavage.
Okay, hold on. This is actually very familiar to what happened in the U.S. in the 1970s when you had a large suburban middle class, and then they broke into two, where you had one really, really, really large, quasi-suburban, extremely poor class, and a small PMI class. And that's kind of basically what's happening there too.
From among the more well-to-do peasants, there was emerging an upper layer of kulaks, the rural bourgeoisie, while on the other hand, many peasants were being ruined, and the number of poor peasants, rural proletarians, and semi-proletarians was on the increase.
Okay, a proletarian is somebody who has nothing but his labor to sell.
As to the middle peasants, their number decreased from year to year. and this mirrors the Marxian prediction of the petty bourgeoisie being increasingly marginalized and sidelined into irrelevance by the big bourgeoisie.
That has always happened in every country, literally. I don't know where.
Yep, it's an inevitability.
Yeah.
In 1903, there were about 10 million peasant households in Russia.
Peasant households, so like family of 4 or whatever. So you had about like 80 million, maybe. Okay, fine.
Yeah. In his pamphlet entitled "To the Village Poor," Lenin calculated that of this total, not less than 3.5 million households consisted of peasants possessing no horses.
Hold on. The reason why horses are important is because a horse is a draft animal. And literally, in order to grow enough food, you need a horse or a cow that you pitch a plow onto, and it goes and it like tills the soil deep enough to like stick the seeds in, so that you can actually get food. If you don't have a horse, you're not going to be able to physically dig enough land in order to feed yourself and your family. That's just physically impossible. And if you look at the same statistics in America, even like the poorest people had a horse. I'll show you next week once I gather it, but you'll see this. So just by that fact that they did not have horses because they themselves were the horses or whatever, like literally, that means that they, no matter like, they just physically cannot feed their family, and that's how poor they were destined to be by the laws of nature.
Well, the laws of capitalism.
No, laws of nature, because you need to do, okay, but you need to like till so much land in order to have enough food to feed your family, right?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it was literally the laws of nature. So what you can do is you can have a horse, and you can share the horse amongst everyone in the town and have everyone's land be tilled, and that's what collectivization essentially is. Or you can have like some rich jackass like only tilling his land, and yeah, that's what privatization is. Okay.
These were the poorest peasants who usually sowed only a small part of their land, leased the rest to the kulaks, and themselves left to seek other sources of livelihood. The position of these peasants came nearest to that of the proletariat. Lenin called them rural proletarians or semi-proletarians. On the other hand, 1.5 million rich kulak households.
Okay, 1.5 million rich kulak households. So even assuming it's a family of 4, that's like 4 million people, 5 million, 6 million people basically who are kulaks, by the way. So next time when somebody's crying about their grandfather, just remember.
Or when anybody tries to tell you that, because this is still common, that the kulaks were quote unquote just peasants.
No, they were not.
Yeah.
They it's kind of like calling a hitman. Like let's say that you are the Godfather, and you're just like, I'm just it's kind of like Garrick on Star Trek. You know how he's like, I'm just a simple tailor. Do you know what I'm talking about, Matt? Or are you not?
No, not at all.
Okay, does anyone know what I'm talking about? Garrick on Star Trek, who's always like, I'm just a simple tailor, and then like he ends up like MacGyvering this bomb or something, and he's like, oh yeah, I just picked this up.
Oh right. Oh, this is the this trope is referred to as the almighty janitor.
Yeah, it's like Garrick from. So yeah, okay, that is no, but Garrick is a tailor. He designs dresses. In Deep Space Nine.
Well, they don't have to be a janitor, but that's what the trope is called. Like when it's revealed that this like lowly life form that you weren't paying much attention to actually like pulls all the strings. But yeah, no, the kulaks were like peasants with like some quotes around the word.
They were the Garricks of Tsarist Russia, if that makes sense. They were not the Bajorans of Tsarist Russia. Okay.
Okay, so on the other hand, 1.5 million kulak households out of a total of 10 million peasant households concentrated in their hands half the total sown area of the peasants. This peasant bourgeoisie was growing rich by grinding down the poor and middle peasantry and profiting from the toil of agricultural laborers, and was developing into rural capitalists.
Okay, wait, I have a humble brag. I have a humble brag that's totally, you wouldn't understand it, but everyone in the chat will. Do you know that Chase Masterson follows me on Twitter? She was Lita Nog's wife. Okay.
That's not a humble brag. That's just a brag.
Okay, what's a humble brag versus brag?
That's okay. A humble brag is when you say, "Oh, I'm so clumsy. I spilled coffee all over my Lamborghini."
Oh, okay. Okay. How do I humble brag the fact that Chase like the star from Deep Space Nine, follows me on Twitter?
I have no idea. You'll have to ask the other people at the convention.
She didn't invite me to the convention to be her guest, by the way. Next time there's a convention. But you know what my biggest fear about going to a Star Trek convention is? I'm afraid I'm going to meet my husband there. And that would be the geekiest thing on earth, right?
Well, I suppose there are worse ways to like meet a future spouse. That's what's kept me scared and away from the Star Trek conventions all these years. Is what if I meet my husband? Oh. And that would like forever mark me. Like, how am I going to tell my kids that we met at a, like, I don't understand. How can it be like any more geekier and stupider? Like, it's like you might as well like just call your, okay. I was going to. Well, I mean, the story of how Queen Elizabeth met was way worse. Did you see that clip?
She was so creepy and it involved pedophilia and incest.
No. It was like there was this clip on the BBC, and somebody asked this historian how Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth met, and there was this long pause, and this guy says in this very upper crust British accent, "Well, they were related."
Excuse me. This is your moderator.
Okay,
You're getting off topic. This was my job tonight, to tell Esha when she's totally getting off topic.
Yes, this is
I'm not doing a great job of it. I was letting you guys go for a while, but
okay.
All right, thank you, moderator. The working class of Russia began to awaken already in the 70s, and especially in the 80s, and started a struggle against the capitalists. Exceedingly hard was the lot of the workers in Tsarist Russia.
Okay, now hold on. Go bring a pen and paper.
Take notes. And every time somebody accuses you of being ableist because you asked them to read Lenin, just remember the next section and hit them over the head with that piece of paper.
In the 80s, the working day in the mill was the working day in the mills and factories was not less than 12 and a half hours, and in the textile industry reached 14 to 15 hours. The exploitation of female and child labor was widely resorted to. Children worked the same hours as adults, but like the women, received a much smaller wage.
Hold on, it says the volume's really low, so just 1 second. Okay, yes, so many liberals have accused me of being ableist because I asked them to read Lenin, and I'm like, wait a minute, these people notice how children work the same hours as adults. Go to school, and so children did not learn how to read, and they somehow managed to learn how to read and then read Lenin. So they learned how to read, and they learned how to read Lenin while they were working the machine. Exactly. So anytime anyone says it's ableist, just like hit them over the head with the notepad that you just
yeah, but listening to 21st century American liberals try to convince me they have it worse than an early 20th century Russian child laborer is one of my favorite things to see on Twitter 8 times a week.
It's like, what if theory's too hard to understand? And I'm like, well, child slaves in Russia understood it. They're like, yeah. Yes, you'll always get, and then like the liberal can't believe this. They're like, no, fuck it. Like some liberals who straight up don't believe it. It's like, you're lying. And I'm like, nope, literally.
Yep.
So they're lying to you. Or they're really stupid, or they're like admitting that they're really, really stupid and meritocracy is a scam.
Lazy.
Yeah.
It's just laziness. Like, you know, it is amazing that one of the contradictions of capitalism is like the hours that we're required to work versus the endless opportunity for sloth.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, read it.
So, wages were in order.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, wages were inordinately low. The majority of the workers were paid 7 or 8 rubles per month.
That's $3 or $4 per month.
While like owing $2 billion to the landlords. So the most highly paid workers in the metalworks and foundries received no more than 35 rubles per month.
That's about $16 per month.
Yep. There were no regulations for the protection of labor, with the result that the workers...
If the machine ate your hand and your hand got chopped off, you just like bled to death and that's it.
Yep. Yeah, no such thing as safety features happening at this time. With the result that workers were maimed and killed in large numbers. Workers were not insured, and all medical services had to be paid for. Sound familiar?
What kind of primitive country, backwards ass country from the 1800s forces workers to pay for their own medical services?
Meanwhile, large companies like Walmart will take out life insurance policies on their employees that they will pocket in the event of death. You see, they can afford to take out life insurance policies on their employees, but they cannot afford to provide them medical insurance. Go figure.
That's because they think you're a slave. Literally a slave.
And by the way, they actually refer to these insurance policies that the company takes out on their employees for the benefit of the company as dead peasant policies.
Holy God.
Yep. Can't make this shit up. Look it up.
Logic. I just saw this. After we finish this, I will talk to him about this and get him to unblock you. Okay, go on.
Where was I? Okay, housing conditions were appalling. In the factory-owned barracks, workers were crowded as many as 10 to 12 to a small, quote-unquote, cell.
That's exactly Rana Plaza, and that's why so many died, but whatever.
Yep. In paying wages, the manufacturers often cheated the workers, compelled them to make their purchases in the factory-owned shops at exorbitant prices, and that's an interesting word, and mulcted them by means of fines.
Okay, and this is also true in West Virginia. They had this thing called the company scrip. So the company scrip was not the US dollar, so it was only redeemable in the company store.
Yep.
And this is the same phenomenon. Okay.
The workers began to take a common stand and present joint demands to factory workers for the improvement of their intolerable conditions. They would down tools and go on strike. The earlier strikes in the 70s and 80s were
1870s, 1880s.
yes, were usually provoked by excessive fines, cheating and swindling of the workers over wages, and reductions in the rates of pay. In the earlier strikes, the workers, driven to despair, would sometimes smash machinery, break factory windows, and wreck factory-owned shops and factory offices.
We support that.
Yes. The more advanced workers began to realize, I'm hearing like imaginary liberals right now going, the violence, like as like there's like still scraps of humans stuck in the teeth of the machine.
Yeah, exactly.
The more advanced workers began to realize that if they were to be successful in their struggle against the capitalists, they needed organizations.
By the way,
and workers' unions.
organization is a word that liberals watered down. What these workers meant by organization is kind of like a battle plan that the military had, where they'd be like, you run there, and like that, so that they were making battle plans.
If you zigzag left and right, it makes you harder to shoot.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So modern liberals think organization is where you go door to door and be like, hey, do you want to vote for Joe Biden? And that is not organizing anything. That is talking to random people.
It's literally organizing an army.
By organizing, that's why they could not use the word organ. Like that's why they kept the last part silent, because it was literally organizing. It was, let's organize an army to overthrow the Tsar and shoot all of them. Yeah, and that's why. But then, like, liberals did not understand the whole pretext of like organize an armed army to overthrow the Tsar and shoot them. So instead, they just think organizing is like a magical act that'll get you your wish. It's like they think it's like a magical lamp that you rub with the genie.
Correct. So, can we get Janet to take over the reading here? Because my dyslexia and allergies are getting to me.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, no problem.
I'm not.
We're at in 1875, the South Russian.
Okay, let me start reading.
Union.
Okay, in 1875, the South Russian Workers Union was formed in Odessa, or is it Odessa? I don't know. This is the first. Odessa. Okay. The first workers organization lasted 8 or 9 months, and then it was smashed by the Tsarist government. By the way, Lenin was in 1875. Lenin was 5. Stalin was not born yet. Okay.
Ash, I'm here, so if you want me to, I can.
It's fine. I'll finish this page. In 1878, the Northern Union of Russian Workers was formed in St. Petersburg, headed by Kalturin, a carpenter, and Abnorsky, a fitter. I don't know what a fitter is. A program of the Union stated that its aims and objects were similar to those of the Social Democratic Labor parties of the West. The ultimate aim of the Union was to bring about a socialist revolution, the overthrow of the existing political and economic system as an extremely unjust system.
Abnorsky, one of the founders of the unions, had lived abroad for some time and had there acquainted himself with the activities of the Marxist Social Democratic parties of the First International, which was directed by Marx. Wait, did I make a mistake? Okay, sorry. Let me fix this. Okay, let's see. Is this better? Is my audio better? Tell me if the audio is better. Is it better or worse?
Definitely got better for me.
Not for you, but for them. Is the audio better or worse now? The world, life is ice cream, water plant, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine.
I looked it up. A fitter is a person who operates machinery and especially an operator of machine tools.
Okay, cool. Okay, let me finish reading now that the volume is right. Okay, where was I? Which was directed by Karl Marx himself. These circumstances left its impress on the program of the Northern Union of Russian Workers. The immediate aim of the union was to win political liberty and the political rights for the people, freedom of speech, press, assembly, etc. as what are political rights. The immediate demands also included a reduction of the working day. The membership of the union reached 200, and it had about as many sympathizers. It began to take part in the worker strikes and to lead them. The Tsarist government smashed this workers' union too. So 2 workers' unions, both of them smashed, and guess what? They come back. Okay. But the working class movement continued to grow, spreading from district to district. The 80s were marked by a large number of strikes. In the space of 5 years, 1881 to 86, there was many as 48 strikes involving 80,000 workers. That's half the factory workload. An exceptional part in the history of the revolutionary movement was played by the big strike that broke out at the Morozov mill, that's in Moscow, in Arekovo Zuyevo in 1885. About 8,000 workers were employed at this mill. Working conditions grew worse day to day. There were 5 wage cuts. How do you have wage cuts? God knows. Okay, between 1882 and 1884. And in the later year, rates were reduced by 25% from $4 a month or whatever at one blow. In addition, Morozov, the manufacturer, tormented the worker with fines. It was revealed at the trial which followed the strike that for every ruble earned by the workers, 30 to 50 kopecks went into the pocket of the manufacturer in the form of fines. The workers could not stand this robbery any longer, and in January of 1885, they went out on strike. The strike had been organized beforehand. It was led by a politically advanced worker, Pyotr Moiseyenko, who had already been a member of the Northern Union of Russian Workers and had already had some revolutionary experience. On the eve of the strike, Moiseyenko and others of the more class-conscious weavers drew up a number of demands for presentation to the mill owner. They were endorsed at a secret meeting of the workers. The chief demand was the abolition of the rapacious fines. The strike was suppressed by armed force. Over 600 workers were arrested and scores of them committed for trial. Similar strikes broke out in the mills of Ivanovo-Voznesensk in 1885. The following year, the Tsarist government was compelled by its fear of growth of the working class movement to promulgate a law on fines, which provided that the proceeds from the fines were not to go to the pockets of the manufacturers, but were to be used for the needs of the workers themselves. The Morozov and other strikes taught the workers that a great deal could be gained by organizing an army, struggle. The working class movement began to produce capable leaders and organizers who staunchly championed the interests of the working class. At the same time, on a basis of the growth of the working class movement and under the influence of the working class movement of Western Europe, the first Marxist organizations began to arise in Russia. So, any comments, Matt?
I was just thinking to myself, like, well, this is more of a question of the writing here than a historical one, but it makes me feel like warm inside when I listen to and read some of the verbiage that's used in the prose here. Like this line, the chief demand was the abolition of the rapacious fines, and like that's not a quote. Like this is the book using that adjective,
or the translator.
Or the translator there, but like this is where they say the rapacious fines, like they're literally saying the abolition of the fines that rape us.
No, I know what it is. Okay. Yeah. In Russia, the apostrophe is kind of put at the it's weird. You kind of have the apostrophes at a different position, so
But
it gets
well,
translated.
no, but like all I'm saying is like, you know, when you compare a legitimately communist textbook to the bourgeois U.S. textbooks that you're used to reading, it's just wild. Like the differences in.
Hold on. Let me see how you say rapacious finds in Russians. Нет. Okay. Hold on. Am I into? Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second. I'll figure this out. You continue to talk.
Okay, well, as we dabble in Russian philology here, well, no, I mean, all I was saying was that I just think it's interesting that it's like you wouldn't hear or read in a bourgeois textbook, economic textbook, on something like they wouldn't refer to the fines the workers are angry about as being rapacious, because they would be more in favor of the fines than the workers. It's just interesting.
I see what you're saying. That's like the propaganda.
Yeah.
That is actually a very profound point, because yes, like literally that, I don't know, that is so profound. I don't have I don't have an equally profound comment to do. But yes, what do you suggest? What is, I guess, to be like? That's a very interesting.
Well, I mean, it certainly speaks to like the power of language and the significance of the language that's used in, you know, just in describing in making political points. Because depending on what your natural predisposition is, it's going to be reflected in the language you use.
Oh, okay. Now I'm trying to figure out okay, now I think I got the right book. Now, Shobisra Stala. Okay. Okay. Give me 1 second. Go ahead. Continue to speak.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all I had for as far as like the language.
No, but like actually, I'm trying to think. Lenin does a lot of like food and how do you pronounce that word? I can't do this anymore.
Analysis.
Like he calls, like he like talks about how some things are like half a husk of corn, and then some things are like
food analogies.
Yeah. Yeah. At that, okay. No. Okay. They're already started about Plekhanov, so this is like, okay. Hold on. Oh, we're already at Narodniks. Okay. I'm so okay.
Yeah, this is one of the more interesting subsections that we're coming up on, because this is my measure for like how I know who reads and who doesn't read. Like very early on.
The word for rapacious fines is in Russian. Okay. Wait. How do you say rapacious fines? Okay, I found it. Okay, so it's damn it, I don't want to pronounce this wrong, but okay. Great thing, no one's gonna hear me, and then I'm gonna replace this. Okay, good. Okay, it's called Прежде всего рабочие требовали прекращения грабительских штрафов. Okay. That's not rapacious. Wow. That's well, that was a lot. That was a lot of words. That was like it's like no. The word they used is like kind of like a hunter animal. Predatory was the word they used.
Oh, okay. Predatory and rapacious are that's fair.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like the word for rape is derived from raptus, which means thief, which we also use for like raptor.
Rapture.
So like bird of prey.
Like break something. I get it. It makes sense.
But
when you're raping somebody, if you like use the vagina as an analogy for like a fruit that has not been eaten, like an unbroken cherry or something, yes.
yes, exactly. But so the Latin word raptus is the origin for rape, rapture, raptor, raptor as in bird of prey.
All you need to remember is that Lenin does not like Plekhanov. He's like number 2 on the shit list after Kautsky.
Yeah. Oh wow, number 2. I thought Bernstein was up there. Though they weren't contemporaries, were they?
Mostly Marx. No. Plekhanov is okay. So Lenin for a while is obsessed with Plekhanov and Martov, and then but then once Kautsky starts, he just does not stop.
yeah. So this subsection on narratism and Marxism in Russia is this is when people talk about the nature of revolution and like what they would like to see done. This is a method that I use to determine whether or not they read, because this is chapter 1, subsection 2.
And what's the question you ask?
Well, it's when I figure out like where they stand on what's called propaganda of the deed, and this subsection deals with the Narodniks bombing the Tsar, and there was no propaganda of the deed. It talks about how this was stupid because it accomplished nothing other than to almost send the entire revolution to hell, almost because of the security measures that followed it. And the Narodniks' plan for this was that blowing up the Tsar would somehow kickstart the revolution for some reason.
That was really stupid. I mean, Lenin explained why that's stupid.
Yeah, and this nonsense is called propaganda of the deed, and it is bad and dumb. And this subsection that happens really early in the book explains why it's bad and dumb, in very plain Stalin-esque language.
Okay. By the way, just so you guys know, anarchists have accidentally started. They killed William McKinley. Accidentally started World War I, when Gavril Princip shot what's his name? Ferdinand, and then the other, who was the other prime some other world leader was also killed by an anarchist. Anyways, but yeah, and
and when Fanny Kaplan shot Lenin, that amplified the results of the Red Terror exponentially, because no matter what happens, when you try to assassinate a head of state, it's not going to be good for anyone.
Unless it's a Tsar under proper circumstances.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, there was a whole host of circumstances, and Lenin never actually intended. Yeah, and Lenin never actually intended to have the Tsar assassinated. They wanted to take him alive.
Yeah, I know, but then he said under no circumstance, and then the young Bolsheviks just panicked and they just kind of shot him.
Yep.
And Lenin was like, okay, fuck, what are we gonna do? And actually,
was it a rumor, or was it actually true that they had lined their clothing with so many jewels it actually worked as bulletproof armor?
I don't know if it worked as bulletproof armor, but they definitely had a few lots and lots of jewelry on them.
Yeah. Well, no, I remember reading somewhere that they had so many jewels lined in their clothing that it ended up taking an inordinate amount of bullets to drop some of the men.
It's possible. We'll never know.
Yeah. Oh well. It's a fun factoid. I just like thinking about SARS getting shot.
Yeah, it's fun to think about that. Go ahead.
Can we have
Janet? Or Janet? Who you want me to read? I can continue to read. Prior to the appearance of Marxist revolutionary work in Russia, prior to the appearance of the Marxist groups, revolutionary work in Russia was carried out by the Narodniks, who were opponents of Marxism. The first Russian Marxist group arose in 1883, and this was the Emancipation of Labor, formed by G.V. Plekhanov abroad in Geneva, where he had been obliged to take refuge from persecution of the Tsar's government for his revolutionary activities. Previously, Plekhanov himself had been a Narodnik, but having studied Marxism while abroad, he broke with Narodism and became an outstanding propagandist of Marxism. The Emancipation of Labor group did a great deal to disseminate Marxism in Russia. They translated the works of Marx, Engels into Russian, the Communist Manifesto, Wage Labor and Capital, Socialism, Utopian, etc., had them printed abroad and circulated them secretly in Russia. So also, anytime a liberal says they can't read, like download, like go to Marxist.org to download like some piece of Lenin, they like, it was literally like the Russian workers found a way to like have illegal books. Okay, never mind. Okay. Hit them over the head with the paper. Okay. Marx and Engels, the great revolutionary, great teachers of the proletariat, were the first to explain that contrary to the opinion of utopian socialists, socialist was not the invention of dreamers, but the inevitable outcome of the development of modern capitalist society. They showed that the capitalist system would fall just as serfdom had fallen, and capitalism was creating its own gravediggers in the person of the proletariat. They showed that the only class struggle of the proletariat, the only victory of the proletariat over the bourgeoisie would rid humanity of capitalism and exploitation. Marx and Engels taught the proletariat to be conscious of its own strength and to be conscious of its class interests and to unite for a determined struggle against the bourgeoisie. Marx and Engels discovered that the law of development in capitalist society and proved scientifically that the development of capitalist society and the class struggle going on within it must inevitably lead to the fall of capitalism, to the victory of the proletariat, to the dictatorship of the proletariat. But unfortunately, we might not have enough time for that to happen. Like life might become uninhabitable before then, but whatever. Okay. Marx and Engels taught that it was impossible to get rid of the power of capital and convert capitalist property into public property by peaceful means, and the working class could achieve this only by revolutionary violence against the bourgeoisie. A proletarian revolution, by establishing its own political rule, the dictatorship of the proletariat, which must crush the resistance of the exploiters and create a new classless communist society. Marx and Engels taught that the industrial proletariat is the most revolutionary and therefore is the most advanced in the capitalist society, and that only a class like the proletariat could rally around itself all the forces discontented with capitalism and lead them in the storming of capitalism. Oh, by the way, today is Bastille Day. Happy Bastille Day. Okay. Oh,
Happy Bastille Day. Nice.
Yeah.
Did not realize that.
Yeah, I forgot about it until I read this part about storming of capitalism, and it reminded me of storming of the Bastille. So, yeah. But in order to vanquish the old world and create a new classless society, the proletariat must have its own working class party, which Marx and Engels called the Communist Party. It was to the dissemination of the views of Marx and Engels that the first Russian Marxist group, Plekhanov's Emancipation of Labor group, devoted itself. The Emancipation of Labor. Oh, I know what it. Okay, got it. Okay. I know exactly what this one is. The Emancipation of Labor raised the banner of Marxism in Russian press abroad at a time when no social democratic movement in Russia yet existed. It was first necessary to prepare the theoretical and ideological ground for such a movement. The chief ideological obstacle to the spread of Marxism and of the social democratic movement was the Narodnik views, which at the time prevailed among the advanced workers and the revolutionary-minded intelligentsia. As capitalism developed in Russia, the working class became a powerful advanced force that was capable of waging an organized revolutionary struggle. But the leading role of the working class was not understood by the Narodniks. The Russian Narodniks erroneously held that the principal revolutionary force was not the working class, but the peasantry, and that the rule of the czar and landlords could be overthrown by the peasants' revolt alone. The Narodniks did not know the working class and did not realize that the peasants alone were incapable of vanquishing tsardom, and the landlords without an alliance with the working class and without its guidance. The Narodniks did not understand that the working class was the most revolutionary and the most advanced class of society. And there's contrary to what Chomsky might say, there's a really simple logistical reason. Basically, the peasants were kind of not free to leave the land. The working class were. And so practically, if you were somebody whose like landlord monitored you leaving the land in and out, it doesn't mean that you couldn't take a train somewhere.
Here's an important asterisk is when they're referring to, as has been established earlier, when they're referring to the working class in this context, they mean like they just became working class like last week. Like there wasn't like 7 generations of working class development that had taken place here. So when they say like most revolutionary, they mean like they literally became working class because serfdom failed them and they had to go into the city to sell their labor power to the industrialists. So it's not what you would think of necessarily as like working class in a 21st century Western context.
Yeah, in the 21st century Western context, there's actually no working class. It's just like watching class. I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. Like it's no, I mean the labor aristocracy in the Western world is a very real concept that needs a much better name. But fail sons.
I don't know. I get the fail sons of labor. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I like that. The fail sons of labor. Okay.
Sounds like the world's worst motorcycle club.
Yeah, that's the point.
The fail sons of labor.
Yeah, the fail sons of labor. Okay, so you're like not even an aristocratic fail son, like the King of England. Okay, so yeah, that's what they meant by, and so Chomsky, like for some odd reason, really purposefully misunderstands it, and some people like mistakenly like add the Jews to here for someone like whatever, but that's what they meant, is that literally like logistically speaking, the working class, as in people who worked in factories, were not literally tied to the land, so logistically they could travel better.
yeah, so and that constituted the vanguard.
Yeah, and that's why Mao actually had it in reverse, because in China, they locked the factory with armed guards and the peasants were allowed to kind of travel a little bit more freely. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Well, they also had a different plan for the landlords. They also had a different plan for the landlords in China than.
Yes, I like that. Yes. They had much more radical. Like Mao learned from the kulaks, and he's like,
and got it right and got it fast.
Yeah, he's like, that's what the landlords do if you don't go until Mao was like. Okay. I did not realize. I have been taking sporadic courses in Mao Zedong thought online, and it just didn't like connect to me about his stance. And watching, I just realized he was watching Russia right from like where he was, which is right.
Yeah, well, Russia. I mean, honestly, the entire like strategy of socialism with Chinese characteristics is basically like just like watching what Russia did and then not doing that.
Yeah, not making Russian mistakes and learning from Russian mistakes.
Yeah, pretty much. Like they did that with the land reform, they did that with the Cultural Revolution, and did that, and they're doing that with like the perestroika glasnost.
Yeah. They like they don't. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, because right now,
that's why.
You
know what's really funny? They were really.
Xi Jinping is doing the exact opposite of both of those things right now, and it's wonderful.
Yes, Xi is the opposite of Yeltsin. So the CIA, not CIA, the State Department called him redder than red, and people called him a fanatical. It's really funny. Just
there's that. Yeah, it's a CIA document that leaked where they basically bemoan the fact that Xi cannot be bribed.
Yeah.
Like he has no they worded like he has no interest in money.
Yeah, he only cares about power, and thereby admitting that money does not equal power in China, and China is literally a dictatorship of the proletariat. Yeah, and so it's kind of like Xi. Because I in my podcast with Brian Mayer, we talked about how every country goes through the stupid phase, like the high school phase. So basically, it's where people are educated and comfortable enough to be like
it's the sophomore slump.
And then, but they're not smart enough to be the college student yet. So that's when all the Eastern European thingies fell down at the high school phase. Like until the high school phase, they're just glad to have food on the table. But then there's like that. And that's kind of what happened in Brazil and Bolivia a little bit. But Venezuela made sure that the high school phase didn't really take hold. But in Brazil, they had a coup. So that's kind of how they got Bolsonaro in the high school phase. And Bolivia, to like even
Brazil. As far as
they should run better propaganda.
As far as the high school phase goes, Brazil kind of chose to be the '80s high school quarterback.
Yes, the worst thing. the thing somehow Lula's going to be inshallah. Okay, be back, inshallah. Okay, I don't want to jinx him.
Yes.
Because China and the DPRK learned too from Russia, and they're like, okay, XYZ, and that's why actually Cuba too. Venezuela, like everyone's learned from Russia.
Everyone. Like I like that everyone seems to have taken away mostly the exact same lesson from the fall of Russia. Which is great because it shows that it's as obvious as it seems, but also that there's a lot of materialist analysis happening in the countries that you would want to be materialist.
Exactly. So they're engaging in lots of good criticism of themselves. They're constantly maneuvering and they're doing good. You'll realize that the more you learn, the less you can actually criticize socialist leaders because they literally solve problems that no one was ever meant to solve. Like, how the bleep do I run a country with 10 million genocidal maniacs who want to kill the other 10 million? It's they had to deal with problems that will never. That's Yugoslavia, or no, Yugoslavia is even worse than that. That's just the basic Czech Republic kind of problem. Yugoslavia was multiply that by 10,000 different ethnicities. Oh my god! So you learn that.
Oh yeah.
It's the more you learn, the less you can, unlike capitalist leaders, the more you, I had to take 2 hits of a certain weed in order for me to behave myself in front of listening to Biden's speech, because the more you learn, the more of a bastard they are become. But then the more you learn, you realize there's there's not much you can actually criticize anyone on. Yeah.
I don't have anything to add to that. I mean, that's just correct. Or at the very least, the criticisms become substantially different from the nonsense you're used to.
Exactly. There's I have my it's funny, whenever I critique Stalin, they don't like my critique of Stalin for some odd reason.
Yeah.
They're just
it's very true. He should have purged more people.
Yeah, he absolutely. That's why 1 million Soviet citizens collaborated. If he had purged more people, then there would not have been this 1 million Soviet citizens to collaborate.
Yep. I still can't believe that you got Twitter jailed for that comment.
Yeah. And then the same day they tried to accuse me of having what is it? Calling for a red-brown alliance. And I'm like, have you ever seen me a single time ever say that you should not kill an my own?
Yeah, exactly.
Only thing that you should do with Nazis is kill them. I did not say that.
Yeah, but basically, but that's the entire point of that's the point of communism at this point. Is make the Nazis dead.
Yes, exactly. That was so stupid because that'll never stick on me because I've never advocated for anything other than victimizing Nazis. Victimizing Nazis. I like that. Okay, hold on. We have something. Mr. Piece of Work, it says, now look at what the U.S. is doing to China. He also said, I blame the U.S. MSM and Hollywood. We've been so indoctrinated. Correct. There's a lot of anti-China propaganda.
But Hollywood makes all, and it's funny because Hollywood makes all its movies for the Chinese audience now.
Okay.
That's why everything. That's why the plot for all these big blockbusters boils down to loud noises and colorful lights. It's because they're not meant for an English speaking audience. It's just supposed to be spectacle.
And then hold on. So now, somebody, Connie Reed says thousands of jihadists from Xinjiang. Oh God, I don't know. Xinjiang are reportedly fighting in Syria, and this is in fact, this is the thing is that when they were cleared out of all the other areas, Assad asked China to take them back. They said yes. How many ISIS? China's taken 10,000 former ISIS fighters back. How many former ISIS fighters has the U.S. taken back? 0. And then
and especially since we're responsible for all of the ISIS fighters.
Exactly. And then they're also screaming at China as they're trying to de-radicalize these ISIS fighters as genocide. But the U.S.
This entire plan reached its logical conclusion in the UK, because now they've got MPs over there that are trying to push a bill to open up the UK to Uyghur refugees. So, and now, my whole thing with people, just to quickly shoot this down, was always that if there was an actual genocide happening in Xinjiang, the U.S. and the UK would have already drafted legislation restricting the amount of refugees that could come into their countries.
Because they would be poor refugees, not well-funded ISIS fighters that have tons of Saudi money.
Yeah, so the only way that this can end in the UK now is if they write in a caveat that disallows those ISIS fighters that just got shipped back to Xinjiang from coming into the UK, which gives away the game, or they essentially end up demonstrating that no refugees come over, which again gives away the game.
Yeah.
So basically they're going to have to find a way to procedurally kill the bill on a technicality without having to actually
Boris Johnson is not smart enough. I don't know why I got them.
Oh no, I do not put anything past that piss-filled skin balloon. I think he's actually quite intelligent, and he just plays a fool.
Are you sure?
I'm absolutely positive.
Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson, piss-filled skin balloon, with a dead rat on his head. Absolutely. I think he's actually quite a skilled political operator.
Okay, never mind. What about David Cameron?
Oh, he was kind of smart. He reminds me of Piers Morgan. I'll just put it that way.
Okay.
Like,
Okay. Okay. So I guess I'm wrong. Or okay. Now that you mention it, I think you may have been right about Boris Johnson. That's
yeah,
scary.
no,
Now he seems scary to me. Now that like I don't. He's like, yeah. Before I thought he was like a bumbling idiot, but now he's like, if he's like Modi level, oh god, he's frightening.
No, he's like Boris Johnson is more like Kaiser Soze at the end of the
Okay, so
unusual
he's not like as
suspect.
good as Modi is, right?
He closes that door behind him and immediately like combs his hair and fixes his collar. Like he only does it's a shtick he plays for the media, and he knows exactly what he's doing. He's supremely well educated, and he's like nobody ascends to be the head of state in any country outside of hereditary bloodlines without being like some kind of genius. It takes dedication and intelligence and maneuvering to be able to do this. So like I don't play like any of the he's a dumbass game with like any politician. Like, don't do it with Reagan, didn't do it with W, like not going to do it with Boris Johnson.
Okay. That gives me something else to think about, and I'm a little bit more frightened now because I took a little bit of comfort in the he's a bumbling idiot part, but I guess he's not. Damn it. Okay. So the villains are worse. Okay. Okay. So hold on. Let me Okay. As capitalism developed in Russia, the working class became a powerful and advanced The Narodniks first endeavored to rouse the peasants for struggle against the Tsarist government. With this purpose in view, the young revolutionary intellectuals from the cities donned peasant garb and flocked to the countryside. So that's like, imagine.
So they were literally LARPing.
Putting on like
they were literally LARPing. They were literally LARPing.
Yes, they were literally LARPing. And that's why the peasants were like, who the creep you? Like they would get frightened of these peep psychos. It's like, who are you LARPers? Yeah, it's literally like a New Yorker putting on a cowboy hat to act like a Texan. And then they're like, go away, you weirdo. And that's basically what happened. And flocked to the countryside, to the people, as it used to be called. Hence the term Narodnik comes from the word narod, the people. And but they found no backing among the peasantry, for they did not have a proper knowledge or understanding of the peasants either, obviously. It's not a surprise at all. The peasants didn't trust it. I would like imagine if Kamal.
Yeah.
That's just not that. Thereupon, the Narodnik decided to continue the struggle against the Tsarist autocracy single-handedly and without the people. What the hell? And this led to even more serious mistakes. A secret Narodnik society known as Narodnaya Volia, which means people's will, began a plot to assassinate the Tsar. On March 1st, 1881, members of Narodnaya Volia succeeded in killing Tsar Alexander II with a bomb. But the people did not benefit from this in any way. The assassination of individuals could not bring about the overthrow of the Tsarist autocracy or the abolition of the landlord class. The assassinated Tsar was replaced by another Tsar Alexander III, under whom the conditions of the workers and the peasants became still worse. The method of combating Tsardom chosen by the Narodniks, namely by the assassination of the individual by individual terrorism, was wrong and detrimental to the revolution. The policy of the individual terrorism was based on the erroneous Narodnik theory of active heroes and a passive mob, which awaited exploits from the heroes, literally the Batman theory. This false theory maintained that it is only outstanding individuals who make history, while the masses of the people and the class and the mob, as the Narodnik writers contemptuously called them, are incapable of conscious organized activity and can only follow blindly the heroes. For this reason, Narodniks abandoned mass revolutionary work among the peasantry and the working class and changed to individual terrorism. They induced one of the most prominent revolutionaries of the time, Stepan Halturin, to give up his work of organizing a revolutionary workers' union and to devote himself entirely to terrorism. By these assassinations of individual representatives of class exploiters, assassinations that were of no benefit to the revolution, the Narodniks diverted the attention of the working people from the struggle against that class as a whole. They hampered the development of the revolutionary initiative and activity of the working class and the peasantry. The Narodniks prevented the working class from understanding its leading role in the revolution and retarded the creation of an independent party of the working class. Although the Narodniks secret organization had been smashed by the Tsarist government, the Narodniks' views continued to persist for a long time among revolutionary-minded intelligentsia. In surviving, Narodniks stubbornly resisted the spread of Marxism in Russia and hampered the organization of the working class. Marxism in Russia could therefore grow and gain strength only by combating Narodism. The Emancipation of Labor group launched a fight against the erroneous views of the Narodniks and showed how greatly their views and methods of the struggle were prejudicing the working class movement. In his writings directed against the Narodniks, Plekhanov showed that their views had nothing in common with scientific socialism, even though they themselves called themselves socialists. Plekhanov was the first to give Marxist criticism of the erroneous views of the Narodniks. Delivering well-aimed blow at the Narodnik views, Plekhanov at the same time developed a brilliant defense of the Marxist views. What were the major errors of the Narodniks which Plekhanov hammered at first with such destructive effect? First, the Narodniks asserted that capitalism was something accidental in Russia and that it would not develop, and therefore proletariat would not develop or either. Secondly, the Narodniks did not regard the working class as the foremost class in the revolution. They dreamed of attaining socialism without the proletariat. They considered the principal revolutionary force was the peasantry, led by the intelligentsia. That sounds really stupid.
There's a reason there are no more Narodniks. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, the intelligentsia, like people from Harvard leading the people. Okay, no. And the peasant.
Yeah, people trained at Harvard leading a Bolivarian revolution in Brazil. That's what the Narodniks thought was going to happen, and these are supposed to be the smart people.
Yeah, exactly. These are the intelligentsia, by the way. Okay. And the peasant commune, which they regarded as the embryo and foundation of socialism. Thirdly, the Narodniks' view of the whole course of human history was erroneous and harmful. They neither knew nor understood the laws of economic and political development in society. In this respect, they were quite backwards. According to them, history was not made by the classes, but by the struggle of classes, but by outstanding individuals, heroes, who were blindly followed by the masses, the mob, the people, the classes. In combating and exposing the Narodniks, Plekhanov wrote a number of Marxist works which were instrumental in rearing and educating the Marxists in Russia. Such of his works as Socialism and the Political Struggle, Our Differences, development of the monistic view of history cleared a way for the victory of Marxism in Russia. In his works, Plekhanov expounded on the basic principle of Marxism and of the importance on the development of the monistic view of history, published in 1895. Lenin said this book served to rear a whole generation of Marxists. And then Lenin goes on to troll Plekhanov nonstop for the next 10 years. But in his writings aimed at Narodniks, Plekhanov showed that it was absurd to put the question the way the Narodniks did. Should capitalism develop in Russia or not? As a matter of fact, Russia had already entered the phase of capitalist development, Plekhanov said, producing facts to prove it, and that there was no force that could divert her from this path. The task of revolutionaries was not to arrest the development in capitalism in Russia. That they could not do anyhow. Their task was to secure the support of the powerful revolutionary forces brought into being by the development of capitalism, namely the working class, to develop its class consciousness, to organize it, and help it create its own working class party. Plekhanov shattered the second major error of the Narodniks, their denial of the role of the proletariats as the vanguards in the revolutionary struggle. The Narodniks looked upon the rise of the proletariat in Russia as something in the nature of a historic misfortune and spoke of the ulcer of proletarianism. Okay, I'm so glad they're gone. Okay. Plekhanov, championing the teaching of Marxism, showed that they were fully applicable to Russia, and in spite of the numerous preponderance of peasantry and the relative numerical weakness of the proletariat, it was the proletariat and on its growth that the revolutionaries should base their chief hopes. Do you have any comments?
No, not really.
Okay.
Like other than like, I will also like chime in on like, yes, I'm glad the Narodniks went the way of the dodo.
Yeah, there, and I see a lot of people in the Democratic Party actually have that like charming one dude idea of history. Like you need just need.
Sometimes this is called great man theory.
Yeah,
basically.
No, but like the Democratic Party always espouses this, like with Obama, or it's like I can't think of anyone else but Obama. But
it's particularly scary because this is the logic that leads to the Fyodor principle. Which was the foundational theory of Nazism.
What was it called?
The Führer principle, which translates to the leader principle, which means, which essentially denotes that everything needs to be aligned to and centralized underneath the Führer, in this case, Hitler.
Okay, got it. I did not realize that. How?
Yep.
Okay, that is very interesting. So the Narodniks were like one deviation away from the fascist.
For being like proto-fascist. Well, like I mean,
they weren't
particularly
yet because they didn't have the industrialization.
What the Narodniks like represented was populism, and they diverged into this sort of pretentious pseudo-populism that basically like people in leather-bound wingback chairs like to jerk themselves off about. Not to get too graphic with it, but like I mean, literally, like you know, they donned peasants' garbs and went into the countryside, like a safari expedition to them, and so it's but like populism, like in itself, like in terms of a left-right spectrum, is rather neutral. Like it could go left, it could go very far right. And they were just idiots, honestly. But and terrorists occasionally.
Yep. Okay. Why the proletariat? Because the proletariat, although it was still numerically small, was a laboring class which was connected with the most advanced form of economy, the large-scale production. So basically, the thing is that the proletariat had experience like making many parts move at the same time, and they kind of knew how to coordinate lots of people doing like lots of different things at the same time. So like that's like not a skill that the peasants were kind of working alone. So the proletariat already had the skill. And when you're overthrowing a government, that's basically, when you're organizing an army to overthrow a government, that's kind of the skill you need, is where you can make a lot of different moving parts like move at the same time. So it's kind of like the factory was already school for organizing an army to overthrow the government.
Right.
That's why they like that. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people in America don't understand the subtext behind the word organizing, and just kind of, even though it's like so obvious, but they don't understand the subtext.
Yep.
Like organizing an army to overthrow the government. But of course you can't say that in front of the existing government because
white Americans don't understand it. When you listen to current and historical black organizers in the United States, they understand it. Like Kwame Ture, Kwame Ture especially.
Yes, all of them understood it. Malcolm X frequently used this analogy without even hiding it, like with the smallest pretext. That's very interesting. Okay, so okay, so I guess we have about 10 more minutes. Should we do questions, comments, suggestions?
Q&A sounds good.
Okay, if you have questions.
So the suggestions.
Yeah, any suggestions? And the cool thing
we'll call it the struggle session.
No, we're not doing that because it's already taken by Leslie's podcast. Leslie Lee the Third and Jack's podcast is called a struggle session, so they've already taken it. We can't take their name.
Oh, okay. Well, not even for a subdivision of our own podcast.
No, that's not. Come on. Jack is a good guy. Leslie's a good person. We can't do that to them. Okay. So
they stole it from Mao, by the way.
I know they did, but now it's their thing. We have to let it go. Kind of like how they don't take historically.
Yes.
Okay. So let's see. We could call it like a question and answer session.
Sure.
Okay. When the Bolsheviks betrayed the Soviets, but what happened? The Bolsheviks did not betray anyone. They are the Soviets. And we'll get to that. That happens in 1917. So the first set of Soviets were the Kerensky's Soviets, which included a lot of czarist officials and bourgeoisie people and very.
They're talking about the provisional government.
Yeah. So they had these things called the Soviets too. Soviet just means no. Soyuz
means a council.
Union sauce.
Yeah, so a Soviet is just a council. So a Soviet.
Yeah, like a village council or a council of. So you need, like, if you have a Soviets got okay, got it. So the Council of Workers or the Bolsheviks means you have communism, and if you have a council of inbred czarist officials, you don't. So the Soviets got rid of the Council of inbred czarist officials and then replaced it with the Council of Workers. But then Western people, for some odd reason, have confused the two because God knows, because they're paid big money to confuse the two.
Exactly, and people who aren't paid big money still confuse the two. I've heard this referred to as "quote unquote" like Lenin overthrowing the people, and it's like, do you even read?
You know who the people are? This is like an inbred czarist official who's probably going to die of hemophilia next month.
Well, so it was toppled in the February Revolution following a bourgeois election. Like when you say overthrew the people, like you're literally talking about the results of a bourgeois election, which by definition does not.
In Kerensky, in post-Tsarist, in Kerensky's Russia, is where you literally get like 4 votes if you are a member of the royal family. You get 1 vote if you are just like rich, and you get like 1/100th of, like, literally, like it was like weighted by their class level.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, you know, this bourgeois election by definition does not represent the people. And I've had like regular ass random nobodies like defend it like this was like Lenin betraying communism or something.
Chomsky doing that too. Chomsky confuses it too. Kerensky's, okay. And by the way, we have an episode at historically.substack.com called The Lenin Plot. Google it. you will learn that basically it's really funny the way Barnes Carr put it is like they decided. Janet, what was the exact word they used? Like he used, it was really funny. Remember?
No, I don't.
No, you're not, Janet. Do you remember in the Lenin plot, you like made a little clip? It was hilarious, like the way the Western people decided to like do a coup, but the words he used was just so funny. It doesn't matter. Okay. Okay. So basically they're like, okay, let's just throw a little bit of money over there to like kill her. I don't know. It was like really funny, but in like a direct way, but do that. It's called. So what you'll learn is that Kerensky was like weak and the Western people wanted to put Admiral Kolchak, who's a total psycho, who like cut off like Siberian people's legs and stuff as like their Juan Guaido. And thank God he was shot or hanged or both. I don't know what happened to him, but thank God. Yeah. So what they don't
wasn't he the one who gave Fanny Kaplan the gun?
No, not Kolchak. No. The guy who gave Fanny Kaplan the gun was like an American Greek double agent. I forgot his name. It starts with the
did Kolchak just name the guy who gave her the gun then?
No, Kolchak was the terrorist in Siberia who was like terrorizing people. No, Kolchak was like already like Fanny Kaplan did it in like 1919. Kolchak had his own republic in Siberia, and he was not in near where Lenin got shot. So, but it was definitely a double agent of England and America, and triple agent of England, America, and France who gave Fanny Kaplan the gun. It's like not, I mean, it's just like, and then they're like, oops, we accidentally did it. We didn't really mean to do it. This was like totally an accident is like what they ended up saying when they got caught red-handed.
Right.
Just search our episode, The Lenin Plot. It's a really good episode. So like the Allies get together to try to shoot the try to kill Lenin, and then it doesn't work, and then anyways, but the factories, no, I don't know how the factory, wait, can you guys wait until like this book is going to be in chronological order. So we're in 1901. To learn about the factories under Stalin, we have to go to 1938. So we will get to
that. Which is a year before the book was published.
Okay, I know. I'm just saying we will get to this eventually somehow. So the future questions, let's just kind of do keep that. I have not seen the movie Reds, so I have no thoughts on that. And let's see, anything else? Oh yeah. Be sure to hit like, subscribe, give us suggestions on how we can improve it, and and the cool thing is I'm already subtitling some stuff. So as soon as like film is invented in Russia, this will be a lot more visually oriented. And tomorrow, if you become a paid subscriber, you're going to get a nice surprise package of Soviet summer resources. I don't know. I'm going to have to think of a better name.
Soviet summer resources is literally the SSR, though, so that's kind of perfect.
What's SSR?
Well, the actual name of the USSR, in Russian, is
Soviet summer.
SSR.
No, it's
Soviet Socialist Republic.
It's SSSS. No, SSSR.
Yeah.
So we need another Soviet summer. We need one more. Super fun resources.
Yeah, super Soviet summer resources.
Okay, our super fun Soviet summer resources. But we'll probably come up with a better name than that.
Just drop the fun. Super Soviet summer resources.
Nah, I like super fun. Okay, but we'll have to figure this out. By the way, this week we are going to have a late night with Lenin. Our guest is going to be Jackson Hinkle. He's the one who did the debate with what's his whoosh, who rage quit. I wish I can go to a time where we never have to hear about that dude ever again. Don't you wish?
Well, you just do what I do. I call him Sloth Limbaugh.
Sloth Limbaugh, exactly. I never want to hear about him. I just wish he would get enveloped in.
I don't engage in debate or discussion with Korean genocide enthusiasts if I don't have to.
No, I don't want to. Like, but then like when he like misinforms like 350,000 people, you're like, yesterday I saw something. It's like where he says, "Let me tell you the truth about Belarus," and I'm like, "Oh God! I bet you no one else has done a response video, and my head is aching, and I just want to, oh God." And I did read Pete Buttigieg's book For the Greater Good. So, okay. Yeah. Ew.
That made part of my facial hair fall off. Just
yeah. I did do that. And so, anyways, so I am willing to deal with Vosh if I have to for the greater good, but only if no one else has done a takedown or whatever. But with that, please come Saturday. What time, Janet? Saturday at 10 o'clock with your drinks, smokes, or whatever you bring to have fun. Eastern Standard Time with Lenin. Wait, does that sound like us? No, that doesn't sound dirty, right? Okay. Yeah, another okay. So okay, I don't really want any I don't want to know any of these people. Yeah, Caleb, no, Vaush is not being coached by Ben Logic Boy.
This is just how stupid white guys with beards talk.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to get confused.
Okay, Couch, you have to tweet the video at me, the specific video, and also explain why I should do it and why somebody else has not already done this. Like, what is the special skill that I have? Because I don't. It's like I'd rather get waterboarded. I would rather literally like have the czarist choke collar than watch. I would totally like almost any form of torture is probably preferable to having to watch Vaush. Don't you agree?
Yeah. Like I only ever watch him like in clips when like he does something racist.
Yeah, and then it's like in front of my face, and I have to hit play, and the Twitter auto plays it. Like otherwise, I can't. Like I just get too bored. I don't understand this too. He's like really racist and boring, and I'm like, wait a minute, he's so boring. Like I don't get it.
I call him the heir apparent to Bill Maher. He fills that exact same gap, but for a younger generation.
Yeah, it's like so boring. So I can't even handle that's why it makes it extra hard because he's like at least like even Ben Shapiro, like other right wingers, at least Ben Shapiro talks like this in a really stupid voice. Or we have Dinesh D'Souza who has a pseudo Indian.
Oh really? I've never heard him speak.
British accent. Yeah. You can see this, like he Dinesh D'Souza travels between a pseudo-British accent and an Indian accent. How's my Dinesh? Okay. No. I can. See, I do Dinesh D'Souza impersonations. Vaush never does that. Damn it. How am I getting 29 viewers and how does he get 7,000 live viewers?
That white penis.
Whatever. Okay, I have no idea. It's like I can do I have so much I can do so many different things. I can't sing though. I will never sing. I sing badly. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, please. I know. I'm actually. I don't mind. Like I just did. Don't get scared off. I just wanted to explain that only bring me Vosh videos to debunk if no one else has done it, and I'll be happy to do it because I'm willing to do anything for the people or the greater good.
But not if I don't have to.
What? Yeah, not if I don't have to. Exactly. Like I'm willing to do, but like if Jackson Hinkle or Nico House or Jimmy Dore or whatever other person you like can do it just as good or can actually do it, then totally. I can't. Yeah, but then like you can't play video games with the history of the CPSU. It's just like takes the okay. I don't want to. No, I don't want anything awkward. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Okay. Anyways, with this, I guess tune in on Saturday for Late Nights with Lenin. Also, our next episode is dropping. It could either be the episode about the Nation of Islam, or it could be our episode about the history of Taiwan, or it could be our episode about Haiti. I don't know. We'll have to ask my producer which episode is going to drop. And thank you so much, Arlene Everest. Again, you're so generous. This is so awesome. Thank you. The article, I'm having a little bit of a writer's block. So I'm like there are 4 articles that I'm 3/4 of the way done. I have The Tale of Two Koreas, which is this article about which Korea is the real Korea and which one is the occupied Korea. The second article I have is about the race war that Obama started in 2008 in Bolivia. Yep, you heard that right. The third article is about the Nicaragua's Somoza dictatorship. And the fourth article is something that was really funny because I had 2 documents. One document said Belarus word salad. And then in the second document in the introduction, it said insert Belarus word salad. And it took me about, how long did it did take me a whole month to figure out that I was supposed to insert the word salad in this section.
I don't think it took a month, but like, yeah, like a little bit, I guess.
Okay, so
I vote for Bolivian race war.
Okay,
I want to know more about that.
Okay, the problem is that it's like really, really long. So right now I'm talking about the Croatian, Montenegrin, totally whose parents were not allegedly Ustazi, who whatever. Schmoopy as yes, we will get to you with that back that like. So I'm getting lost in the weeds of 2008. So I need to show the right amount of detail to show that the State Department is behind it, but not show too much detail as to get lost in the weeds of like white nationalist terrorism. So that's the balance, but I will get there. Tomorrow, actually, maybe that's what I'm going to do. Okay. I will try to get the race war in Bolivia and the Evo Morales assassination attempt ready for this weekend. And Bolivian race war. Okay. We'll figure this out. With that, thank you so much, and tell your friends, family, enemies. Please be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell. Leave a comment. You should leave a comment about leave a comment about I don't know. What's your favorite city in Asia is? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. And follow me on Twitter at NAL Praxis.
Yeah, and he will unblock you, Lumpia Logic, once we figure out what your Twitter name is. If you've blocked her for some odd reason accidentally, but you wouldn't, because yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so with that, bye, I guess, and we'll be back. When will we be back, Matt?
Wednesday.
Okay, we'll be back next Wednesday at 9?
At 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And
okay.
we will pick up with this Narodnism stuff, and I will hopefully have a little bit of a spiel that explains the backstory under which this book was published, the history of the CPSU, because it's actually really interesting, like, why they published this specifically. Because if you notice, it's 1939. It's right after the purges and right before the war.
Oh, Trotsky.
No, actually,
Trotsky was making up lies, right?
That is true, but I mean, that's what Trotsky did. So.